Good evening, world. Welcome to Juice Word, episode 47. Tonight we're going to talk about consideration. And real quick, when you really think about consideration, I want you to really take time to really think about that. Think about consideration. It's something simple. Consideration. Really simple. But we have to address it head on. Most adults, we don't practice consideration. Consideration is not being nice. Consideration is not being polite. Politeness and being nice has nothing to do with consideration. It doesn't. So consideration is its own category. Politeness and niceness has nothing to do with consideration. That's more to do with people pleasing and shrinking. So this has been heavy on my mind. If you checked out my last reel about love and real love and survival love. And you think about consideration. Consideration is supposed to be considered the highest form of love, consideration. I got a question for all of y'all. Also myself. Do you think you're considerate? Do you know that you're considerate, or you just think you are? And we all need to take that question right there. Do you think you're considerate, or do you just really think you are? And evaluate ourselves and look at ourselves at times when we could have been considerate when we weren't, right? When you think about consideration, when you want to break it down, it's awareness and intention together. That's what consideration is. You're aware of your surroundings. You're aware you can read the room, and you're moving with intention. No matter the circumstance, you're moving with intention. That's consideration. It's understanding that also my action before I perform it, I know this is nothing major, but knowing that they have trauma issues, this is going to affect them. So instead of taking that risk of triggering them, how about I just scratch this from the plan completely and do something else? That's consideration. And you can apply this across the board on your whole part of your life. You can. Consideration. It's moving with awareness and intention together. One, unified. That's what consideration is. Awareness and moving with intention. Everything you do is with intention, and you're aware of your consequences. You're aware of your actions. You know how it's going to impact the situation. That's consideration. It's impact over intention. You can intentionally do the right thing, but if you do this thing that you might not feel like it's that big of a deal, it may trigger your significant other, it may trigger your friend, it may trigger your parents, it may trigger your sister, your whoever. But even though you really want to do this and you know how it's not going to bode too well for them, and you're going to change your plans, and that's consideration. What's up, Caps? Appreciate you tapping in on Facebook Live. I appreciate y'all tapping in on TikTok Live. I appreciate y'all. Y'all tap the screen so I can make sure I'm in your algorithm so y'all can get these gems. We have to all understand that just because you love somebody, that's not an excuse to automatic guarantee consideration. You can love somebody and still be inconsiderate. When things get rough and you trying to have difficult conversations, for example, instantly and constantly interrupting that person when they talk, that's inconsiderate. And we've all done it before. Interrupting constantly. We've all done it before. We've all been on that side of the fence. We have. It's you making a decision for somebody. Let's say you're in a marriage or a relationship. If you're making a decision for somebody without consulting them first, that's inconsideration. If you have a boyfriend, if you have a girlfriend, even if you hanging with your best friend, you got to check with her or him or whoever before you decide a plan to do this and sign them up for it too. Like, who said I wanted to do this? You see what I'm saying? That's consideration, understanding that, hey, let me check with them and see what they got going on. That don't mean you locked down or you hooked. That mean you're being emotionally intelligent. That means you're being considerate to understand that they may not be in the mood to go or do such and so and so. You have to really take that into consideration. You have to think about that. You have to be aware of the other person. You can't just act and move off of how you feel. The other person matters also. So when you consider their feelings and understand that, hey, this may trigger them back and forth. Hey, reciprocity. That's very important. We definitely have to understand that. We have to. Dismissing feelings, no matter who it is. If somebody comes to you with an issue and you made them feel a type of way, or they want to give you a conversation about how they feel about a situation, just to handle it the adult way and you dismiss their feelings, that's inconsiderate. That's not consideration. That's not. Like I said, you can love somebody and still be inconsiderate. You can. We have to always, what Future said, can't think for yourself, got to think for the team. Don't get too comfortable. You can't get too comfortable. You got to think for the team. You ain't thinking for yourself. You got to think for the team. If you got kids, you got to think for the team. If you married, you got to think for the team. If you got a boyfriend or girlfriend and y'all are serious, you got to think for the team. If you have a whole family, bro, you can't go out there and do any and every kind of thing. You got to think for the team. And I think a lot of people, we miss that. Because sometimes we have had moments where we could have been more considerate than normal. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you be considerate, but you be over a situation. You be like, man, I ain't even considerate about nothing. So I've been like that. I'm going to be 100 about that. I know I'd have been inconsiderate at times. But you know what though? The inconsideration is always self-centeredness disguised as confidence. Because you feel like your feelings and how you feel and your opinion matters more than others. And that's not cool. That ain't cool. And you realize that could trigger things that happen in their life when they were children, from a past relationship, past marriage, and you being inconsiderate and you don't want to listen and validate their feelings, and they're coming to you to bring you an issue that they have a discussion about. They want to have a discussion about. And you just blow it off like it's nothing. You know, that's detrimental to the person's mental, spiritual, and emotional battlefield. Because you do that to somebody, they'll shut down. They'll never talk to you again. They won't. You being inconsiderate to somebody it's affect you more than what you think it does. So we always have to be considerate. Have to be. We have to be. And you think about it, it's really a thin line. Even with consideration, you still have to understand it's a thin line between consideration and people pleasing. It's a thin line between consideration and people pleasing. You have to really be careful with that. You have to. Because you can be considerate to a certain point and you abandon yourself. That's not consideration. That's self-abandonment. That's imposter syndrome. That's shrinking. You take time to think about it. How many times we all have gone out our way to do things for people? And it's not the fact that you didn't mind doing it, but it just didn't feel right with your energy, right? Then it's like your energy telling you not to be considered in this situation and you do it anyway, right? That's self-abandonment. That's shrinking. That's imposter syndrome. You're doing it and you're not being true to yourself. Anything not being true to yourself and it goes against your energy and how you feel about things, that's abandonment. That's self-abandonment. It is. And I've been guilty of it. We all have been guilty of self-abandonment in situations. Growing up, to really on the journey to find out who we are and what we stand for and what God has for us and who He's telling us to be, and understanding the importance of loving yourself. You know, standing up for yourself. All of those things. When you love yourself more, you'll be able to love someone else. And you'll be able to be considerate. But you have to operate from a healed place, though. That's always the foundation of everything. Seek ye the kingdom of God and seek alignment and oneness with Him. And then everything else will fall in place. It's not going to be smooth. But it's going to have good times. It's going to have bad times. But you got to understand that, hey, I done got through worse. And then you understand and you lock in and understand what's behind the veil, what's behind the mask, what everybody's trying to show you. Oh, this person, that person. You get to a point where you're at a high level of peace and you unbothered by things that go on around you. And you be considerate to the things that are going to reciprocate back to you. That's what I'm saying. Because we could all be considerate to the wrong people. And we don't receive it back. And they're not considerate to us. Like I said, that's self-abandonment also. This has been a heavy week, just breaking down the things that we claim that we want so bad. That's why they say be careful what you ask for. Because once you're going through that journey and you growing and you elevating and you ascending, like you really finding out what's real and what's fake. You finding out what's real and what's not. Like, dang, I was doing that, I was delusional. And now you look at it when you're at a higher version, a better version of yourself. You look at the things you participated in and the people that you were considerate to and you gave yourself to, and you like, dang, why would I do that? Houseway. And this is how you look at it. Like I said, when you know better, you do better. But until you know better, your best decision may seem like it's the best decision, but it's the worst decision. That's real. That's definitely real. And you have to really take that into consideration. Because sometimes you might not be in a healing place to be considerate to anything or anybody. Like, you need to take time to yourself and heal. That's always the number one goal, to get into a better version of yourself. So you can feel the consideration and reciprocate the consideration. All of that stuff. But yeah, you think about it. It's a thin line, like I said, between people pleasing and consideration. It's really a thin line. Because like I said, it's abandoning yourself. People pleasing equals shrinking yourself. Consideration is standing firm, but you're delivering with awareness. Like, hey, I got your back, but anything outside these parameters, I can't help you. That's consideration. You can help somebody, you can maintain your boundaries and still be a focal point in somebody's life and be considerate and help them. But you got to understand that you have your boundaries, your parameters. And sometimes the consideration what they're asking may be a tall task if you're not ready to have the capacity to hold that. And I think that's when we go outside our energy, we be like, man, I really don't feel like doing this. But we do it anyway. Even though it's outside our energy. It was a good deed, but you're still self-betrayal because you're not listening to your energy. You're not paying attention to your biofield telling you, hey, I don't need to do that. I'm good on that. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like being involved with that today. Always listen to yourself. That's what happens. When you're overly considerate, you're self-shrinking. You're self-sabotaging. You're maintaining a case of imposter syndrome. If you're not being true to yourself, if you're being overly considerate, just going the 100 mile for no reason, knowing that it's not going to be nothing reciprocated behind it, knowing that why am I putting myself in this position, knowing the situation is the way it is, and you still go overboard, overly considerate, always being easy, okay, stuff like that. That's self-betrayal. That's shrinking. And I think we miss that so much. And that's with family, friends, siblings, significant others. It don't matter. Anytime you're not honoring how you feel and honoring yourself, it's not, it's self-betrayal. It's not consideration. It's not. And that's a really deep thing for us to really swallow. That's a big pill that we have to swallow. Because consideration and self-betrayal is such a thin line. It's such a thin line. When you're being overly considerate, you have to look at it like this. You're giving more that you even have access to within yourself. You over giving love that you haven't even loved yourself enough and have the capacity to be considerate to this amount or to this height or to this level. And if you haven't put in the work to love yourself, then how can you be considerate? How can you meet that need? That's why I kind of went off the trail and came back on. Well, seek ye the kingdom of God and love yourself. You have to love yourself, have to care for yourself. If you can't do that, you're not going to be considerate. You're always going to be inconsiderate. But you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. What's up, Kevin East? Appreciate you tapping in. Appreciate the love. Y'all tap the screen. I appreciate y'all tapping the screen. It's going to add me into y'all algorithm. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the love. Episode 47, Jews Word. We're talking about consideration tonight, guys. Consideration. And it's a thin line between consideration and self-abandonment. People please and shrink yourself. Consideration is standing firm with boundaries. You're standing firm with boundaries. I'm going to be considerate, but I'm not going to lose myself in this consideration. You see what I'm saying? That's what consideration is. Self-abandonment is giving overly when you know you don't have the capacity to do all of that. You can't do all of that. If it's outside your range and your means of doing things, then just don't do it. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to say no. It is okay. Because a lot of times we got to understand we take on things that God doesn't have for us. It's not our fight. It's not our job. It's not our journey. It's not our purpose. It's not my assignment. Some people are not your assignment, and they have to understand that. Thank you, Michi. I appreciate that. 47th episode, y'all. 47th, year 2. Let's get it. But yes, that's self-betrayal. Then it's the crazy thing because this is where another layer of this is the power and the entitlement. This is where this comes because entitlement is always there when you overly give, and they get so used to you just being that. And when you pull back because they're not pouring into you, it's a red flag going off. And that's when the power and the entitlement come in, and that's where there's significant others, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, sister, brother, children, whoever. This is where it's finna get uncomfortable. And we don't like to hear this, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. Let's lean into it. It's all about growth. It's all about faith, love, and life. Let's tap into it. Let's go. Whatever dynamic that you're involved in, friendship, marriage, parent-child relationship, if that person feels more power, you let them feel like they are the best thing since a slice of bread, the less considerate they're going to become. I don't care if they're a mixture of Fergie and Beyonce mixed together. You can't give them everything. You can't give them everything. Because if you do, they're going to become less considerate. Because now they're going to treat you like a fan. Yes, you're supposed to hype that person up. You're supposed to be considerate. You're supposed to show love, supposed to big everybody up. But if you give them too much power, they're going to start acting like it's entitled. Like that's how you're supposed to treat them. That's the bare minimum of how you're supposed to treat them. And I know we've all experienced that all across the board through all our life. When you gave somebody an inch and they didn't try to take a whole 100-yard football field, you're like, dang, where they do that at? You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's what it is, though. That's when the power entitlement comes, when you overly give. When you do too much, that's when the entitlement and the power comes. And that's when they feel like, oh, this is how you treat me because you beneath me. That's when they start playing in your face. That's how they play in your face. Like I said, family, friends, significant other. It don't matter who it is. Any type of relationship, they're going to play in your face if you give them too much power. And that's when the people who do that are the people who are not sufficient enough to carry consideration and love. They're not meeting the requirements of love. They're not. But we're expecting them to do so. And so if they're not meeting the requirements of love, we're expecting them to be considerate to what we have going on. When they're not even much in the ballpark. They ain't even much in the same state. And it's goofy and silly of us to even much do that. But like I said, when you know better, you do better. That's why it's so important, man, to align with yourself. Get in alignment with God, man. Get a clear thought. Get to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. Work on yourself. You have to be able to understand your weakness and your lightness and love what God has made, but love it enough that it's going to honor him in everything that you do, every step that you take, every thought that you possess. Everything you speak out your mouth is going to honor him. Oh, slap the mic, y'all. You got to honor him in everything. Yes, cut access immediately. Yes. If it's costing you your peace, it's too expensive. Get out of there. Pew! Out of there. Y'all remember how Gumby used to slide off the show on one foot? Out of there. Alright. But yes, the more power someone feels in the dynamic that y'all have, the less considerate they become. Because I said, they start thinking like, oh, they love me. They ain't never going nowhere. Oh, they going to be loyal to me. They like you, your best friend or somebody. Oh, they going to be loyal to me no matter what. And they doing fake and fraudulent stuff. No. Sometimes you got to choose peace over loyalty. Because you can be so loyal to somebody else that you being an apostle to yourself. You loyal to them, but you ain't loyal to yourself. Sometimes you got to understand loyalty ain't, man, listen, you got to put a boundary around that loyalty. Because you be getting loyal to the wrong shit. You can't be for real. Definitely loyalty to the wrong thing. Even as for parents, us as parents, we overindulge. We overindulge with our kids. You know, we're going to do for our kids. But we got to let them grow. We got to let them fall. We got to let them bump their head. We got to let them make bad decisions. But when you overindulge in their life and you always there, you always trying to save them for bumping their head, what lesson are they learning? What lesson are they learning? Then the kids start getting comfortable. They start moving like, oh, my mom going to save me every time. My daddy going to have my back every time. You got to put a cap on it. You got to put a boundary on that. That's real. That's why I said this consideration, it applies across the board. From your mama, your children, your sister, your brother, whoever. It don't matter. Consideration applies across the board. Will Future said, too much star power turn a lover to an enemy? Man, listen. Too much star power turn a lover to an enemy. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, once you start giving them that power, that entitlement, you overly give, you overly consider that everything they want. You waiting on them hand and foot 100%. They start thinking the people that ain't healed, that ain't on the wavelength and the frequency that you're on, they're going to start thinking, oh, they ain't going to never leave me. That's when they start playing. Like I said, the friend going to be like, no matter what they own, they're going to assume that loyalty. They're going to be loyal to me no matter what I do. I can go and do X, Y, Z. They still going to be loyal. No, big dog, this outside my boundaries. I ain't with no buffoonery, no tomfoolery. We ain't doing that. No. And that's when that overly consideration happens. When can you tell your best friend about themselves? Can you tell your significant other about themselves? And can they tell you about yourself? And can you accept it? Can you take it on the chin without feeling salty, without throwing shade, and understand that it's love in the hard times, right? Because if I'm considerate and I see something I don't like, I'm definitely addressing it. Oh, we talking about this? On God. We talking about this. We chopping it up. Let's chop it up. Oh God, let's chop it up. But yeah, and the parent who overindulges. What you said, Cam, spare the roof, spare the rod, you spoil the child. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes y'all got to understand this. I'm going to give y'all a gem tonight. I'm going to give y'all a gem. And I learned this at an early age. Sometimes, you know how you have certain people who always going through certain things. And sometimes we always want to save it. We always want to jump in. We always want to grab their hand. We always want to do all of this, no matter who it is. Children, mama, sister, whatever. If they can't learn their lesson from God, stop intervening in God's plan. I went through hard times because I knew I had to go through hard times to wake me up, right? Everybody has their own hard times, but also sometimes when our children gets older, we overindulge and just instead of just letting them experience what they experience and letting them grow and learn from it. As parents, we do overindulge. We have to allow them to make mistakes, get them enough room to make mistakes, raise them right. But at the same time, if they bump their head, you got to have a boundary. If you get locked up, I'm coming down there to get you one time, baby. One more time, you in there. You in there on everything. I promise you. All right. You got it, but just that, for example, that's a boundary. Normally, fellas, we set that boundary with our kids. I give you out one time, big dog. You go down another time, hey, it's on you. But that's that boundary you have to set because that's that power and entitlement. You start loving your kids so much, overindulging them, and they gonna start thinking like they can play with you, play in your face too. That's why I say it's a thin line between consideration and self-abandonment. It's a very, very thin line. Healthy relationships run on a mutual consideration. Yes, healthy relationships, like me said, run on a mutual consideration. You're gonna be on the same frequency. What's understood ain't got to be explained. In order to use that phrase, you have to be at that level of consideration. What's understood ain't got to be explained. So that means y'all that went through y'all battles and y'all understand each other. Y'all know each other. What's understood don't have to be explained. And we use that so loosely. And the main folk that we're using will be the main ones that stab us in the back. I didn't even heard myself saying one time, man, listen, if we locked in, ain't no switching up. And ain't even locked in. Man, come on, man. We all have played the fool before, man. I'm just saying. But you have to really think about that. That's why I say everything into my life until this point has been AI. Because a lot of decisions I've made and I understand, I had to go through that to get to where I am now. And I'm thankful for it. Things sometimes have to be taken away in order to have true appreciation for them. Yes, that's true. Like Cap said, something's got to be taken away because, you don't show gratitude. You're not a good steward of it. You're not a good steward of people. You're not a good steward of the blessings God bless you with. You're not a good steward of nothing. And a lot of times God has to show you to humble you. I slapped his mic again, y'all. Sometimes God have to humble you. Sometimes he have to. I've been humbled in my life before. God humbles you sometimes. Yeah. And it's okay though. Because it said you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Ain't that what Cap said? You spare the rod, you spoil the child. If God telling our parents whoop us, you think he ain't gonna whoop us? When we ain't doing what we supposed to do, we ain't hitting on the cylinder, we missing the mark. You gonna keep going through a test until you learn it, until you understand the lesson that's coming behind that test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, release them. Right. Out of there. Pew. But yes, entitlement kills consideration. Entitlement, it kills the whole aura and the love that's put into consideration. It kills it. And once entitlement shows up, the respect leaves. Entitlement removes consideration. And when that happens, the respect leaves. Whatever relationship you in, the respect leaves. When the entitlement kicks in, ain't no more respect. The respect slide in the bushes like Homer Simpson. Just slide on back. Because it killing the consideration. That ego, that entitlement, it kills consideration. It does. A lesson is repeated till it's learned. That's right, Caps. A lesson is repeated until it's learned. I know I done had one situation I got out of, boom. Another situation, dang, that look familiar. Yes. I to the left. Love, man, listen. Lord, I heard you the first time. You're going to have lessons over and over again until you learn. That's why I say you have to take the lesson out of whatever you're going through and find the silver lining and grasp what God's trying to show you. The things that are meant for your bad is always, God is always going to turn around for your good, but you got to believe that. Because what did he say? Does your faith make you whole? Does your faith make you whole? You can't expect God to show up if you ain't got faith in God. Ain't nobody coming to save you. You got to save yourself. You have to save yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody. And once you grasp that, life gets so much better. I ain't going to say easier because that's a lie. It gets so much better. You're going to be focused on the things that brings you energy, that's bringing you peace. And as well as things that still going to be going like life goes. Life's still going to life, but you still got to keep pushing. You still got to stay focused. You still got to stay locked in. You still got to stay locked in on your solid foundation, your spirituality. You got to stay locked in on it. They say, weeping may endure for night, but joy comes in the morning, like, right? That's how you got to be. Even if you ain't in the church. Hey, when Nipsey Hussle said, never let a hard time humble us. You see what I'm saying? Never let a hard time humble us. It's different mantras in different ways you can say it. And all of them are equivalent. Never let a hard time humble us. Might get that tatted. Never let a hard time humble us. That's going to be a big tattoo. Never let a hard time humble us. That's going to be like 2 lines, bro. No. It's going to be like 2-line tattoo. Just get it around my body. Never let a hard time humble us. I'm just saying, though. But yeah, that's true, though. Never let a hard time humble you. Be who you are, the confident you, the happy you, the peaceful you, no matter what's going on. I don't care if the house burning down. Sit at your kitchen table like the dog. Sip your coffee or your tea, whatever you sip on. It's fine. That's how you have to be in life. That's how you have to be. Be like that dog in the burning house. It's fine. It's fine. House burning down, but it's fine because your faith has made you whole. But that's why you have to have that solid foundation to seek ye the kingdom of God first, so you can tap into that kind of alignment that when you can apply consideration and reciprocate it back and receive it properly. Because you're not in the right place, or you're not healed correctly, or you're not trying to do the shadow work, you're not going to receive the consideration, and you're sure not going to reciprocate it. So that's why it's always so important to seek ye the kingdom of God. Get in alignment. It's so important. It's very, very important. But that was the dark side. That's the bad side. That's the darkness of consideration. That's the other side of that slim line. But we're gonna tap back into the love and the consideration side, how that intertwines together. This is, man, just sitting here thinking about, like I said, the times and the things that you've entertained and the times that you've given yourself and your heart, knowing that you thought this was love. You thought it was love, and it wasn't. Man, that's mind-boggling. That's why I made that real the other day, y'all. That's why I made that real. The requirements of love. You're not failing at love. You're failing to meet the requirements to obtain love. And how you failing to meet the requirements? For one, you got to align with God. That's why I said alignment is everything. Until you align with God, a lot of doors are not going to be opened. You're not going to experience a high level of peace. Do you think consideration can be learned, or it's a character trait? That's a good question, Michi. Michi asks on TikTok, do you think consideration can be learned, or is a characteristic trait? I'm sorry, y'all said that so wrong. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that once you get in alignment, your heart, your mind, and everything changes. I think once you tap into that higher vibrational, Christ-conscious level of yourself, where love is your powerful weapon, I think that anybody's heart can be changed. I think anybody can change. Anybody can be considerate. Because I think when we're all unhealed, all of us are inconsiderate. All of us have had moments of inconsideration, even when we don't feel like we're being inconsiderate, because we're being true to ourselves, but they're being true to themselves too. Because 2 things can be right at the same time, and 2 things can be wrong at the same time. That's what we all have to remember. It's not a double standard. It's a 2-way street. Yeah. They hit right there, y'all. Yeah. That's a good question, Meech. I appreciate that question, sweetheart. That was a great question. Great question. Great question. Yes. Because if it's solely dependent on a characteristic trait, that means that no matter what they go through, they're never going to obtain consideration. And it may be some like that. Like I said, there's 2 things can be right and 2 things can be wrong at the same time. Yes, it can be learned. Yes, I think it's a characteristic trait and it can be learned. It's those 2 things can be right at the same time. And I agree with you, because if they choose to, but if they're willing to choose themselves and get in alignment with God, that's when they will be able to tap into that consideration and that characteristic trait, and to be able to perform and reciprocate in that area. I'm going to take perform out. Be able to show up in that area, in their fullness. I think consideration can be learned, but whether someone chooses to learn it, it says a lot about their character. Facts. They have to choose to. Yes, they have to choose to. Yes. Even if you're not considered, you could be a hard ass, right? But when you align with God and God changes you mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, then you'll start being considerate, start being more loving. But it's your choice. You have to choose to do that, though. God gives us free will, so you have to make that choice. You have to make that choice. So when you think about it, love and consideration. This ties into, like I said, the healed love versus the survival love. When I made that reel the other day, the healed love versus the survival love. This ties into that. Because in survival love, what you going to do? If you're not on that frequency tapped into the consideration level of it's being reciprocated and given back and forth, and that type of love, you're going to react, you're going to defend, and you're going to justify your actions. You're going to react without listening and understanding and comprehend. You're going to defend yourself. And there's nothing wrong with defending yourself. But when you defend yourself when you know you're wrong, that's survival love. And you justify your actions. That's survival love. That's not real love. Because real love is taking accountability. Real love is moving with intention. Real love is taking time to understand that you have to move a certain way when you have people with you. It's got to think for yourself, got to think for the team. As the Future said, you can't think for yourself, you got to think for the team. Like I said, consideration is nothing but moving with awareness and intention at the same time. Awareness and intention, that's consideration. Consideration starts with awareness. Yes, you're right, Meech. Consideration starts with awareness and intention. Like I said, you're aware of what's going on. You're aware of the surroundings. You're aware that you can do this action, but you know that your partner, whoever, may have a reaction. It may trigger them because of what they've been through. So in order to keep that trigger from happening, just wipe it off the board and you go decide to do something else. That's consideration. That's moving with awareness and intention. You understand what's going to come behind the action. You already know. So moving with consideration and intention. Consideration is moving with awareness and intention. That's what it is. And we tend to miss that sometimes, because I know I've done it sometimes. Yes, character development is very important. Character development is really important. That's why I say in order to tap into this type of consideration, or to even be in the realm of what real consideration is, you have to really work yourself and be self-aware of the things that you can do that can harm the people around you that you love the most. And move around that. You move around that. That's consideration. That's consideration. Like I said, intention and awareness. That's consideration. When you think about it, when somebody's on their frequency with you, on that level of intention, you pause before you speak. You ask questions to get a better clarification without just speaking, without getting clarification. You can't assume. You see what I'm saying? Y'all get that? You're going to pause. You're going to think before you speak. You're going to pause. Listen to what they have to say. Process it. Then speak. Then you're going to ask questions just to make sure that you're clear about what they're talking about before you respond. And then you're going to adjust. You're going to analyze your point. You're going to analyze their point. You're going to put it together. Mix it up together. Okay, boom. Yeah, she right. Yeah, he right. Yeah. So then you're going to adjust to what they're saying. If your mom tell you don't come in my house no more after midnight, what you going to do? You're going to adjust. You're going to be considerate of the adjust because your mama take care of you. You're going to be considerate. Okay, let me chill out because I ain't trying to get beat with this stitching cord. So, love doesn't feel rushed where consideration lives. Facts. Love does not feel rushed where consideration is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Consideration is everything is going to flow. Like Bruce Lee said, you got to be like water. You got to be like water. You got to be like water. Yes, you definitely have to be like water. Because you never know how life is going to go. In order to maintain consideration and that high level of love, through the highs and the lows, that's what life is really about. That's what real love is really about. And we've all had experiences of what we thought love, what we classified as love. But you think about the stress, the strain, the anxiety, the self-shrinking, self-sabotaging, the toxicity that came behind it. Ain't no way, because love ain't toxic. Love ain't unicorn and rainbows either. But love is a choice. Love is a decision. Love is discipline. Love is self-awareness plus self-love plus consideration. You're moving with intention. This is chess, not checkers. When you consider people, that is the highest form of love because it's sacrificial. If you're willing to tap into love, that's sacrificial. If you want to tap into your ego and go against it, it's still sacrificial. What y'all said, that was ego, lust, and pride. Facts. Facts. Consideration is emotional intelligence. That's true, yes. Consideration is emotional intelligence, yes. If I know my uncle just got from Vietnam or Iraq, and it's the 4th of July, you think we finna pop some fireworks? Man, go sit down there and play your video game. No, we're not doing that. That's consideration. You see what I'm saying? Listen, we ain't trying to have a setback. We ain't trying. He ain't in Vietnam. He in West End right now. You see what I'm saying? Like, we ain't got time for that. You gonna see grenades, everything. Boo, boo. We ain't got time for that. Consideration. When you really sit there and think about it, you go down a wormhole about it. Are we really considerate, or we just think that we are? That's a really deep dive into your soul and your self DNA. That's deep down. You got to go deep down for this one to answer this question. Are you really considerate, or you just think that you are? Because everybody has their own truth. Like I said, 2 things can be right and 2 things can be wrong at the same time. Everybody has their truth. So we can't really say that's a bad decision, or that's not right, or that's not right, because everybody have a right in their mind. Everybody has a version of love in their mind. What's up, Queen Jackson? Appreciate you tapping in. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Y'all tap the screen. Make sure I stay in y'all algorithm so I can continue to share this love and this awareness with y'all. But yeah. When you really take a deep dive and really think about it, you really have to look at yourself to answer that question. Are you really considerate, or do you just think you were considerate? That's like a moving field goal post. Because we're going to be like, because it's because of the situation. But when it's true love, and it's true, it is really like a real healthy relationship, whether it's brother and sister, best friends, best bros, mother, daughter, husband, wife, whatever relationship it is. It has to be a trust there. It has to be a trust. It has to be. Because if I can't trust you, how can I feel like you should be considerate? If I can't trust you, why would I even think that you're going to be considerate to me? If you didn't slide on everybody, you probably going to slide on me. Hold on now. Hey. Yeah, my loyalty ends here, big dog. Yeah, my loyalty ends here. Hey, man, listen. Hey, you got to protect your peace. Always watch your 6. Always stay on your pivot. Because the ones who said they love you be the first ones to hurt you. Just being real, for real. And you need to evaluate, we all need to evaluate all the relationships we have, all the people we consider friends. Are you considerate, or are you just saying that you are? Is somebody back against the wall, would you be considerate enough to have their back and be considerate of what they got going on? If you love them like you say you do, you will. You will. You will be selfless in removing yourself. Because a real leader has to serve. You have to serve. So you have to be considerate. If you're a man, you're a leader, you have to be considerate. That's where leadership comes in, because that's serving. Consideration is serving as a leader. Yes. That's serving on all levels. Man, woman, whatever. True. That shit, right. It do. Yes, it do hurt. Yes, it does hurt. Yes. Queen Jackson, that do hurt. Yes. It does. When somebody playing in your face and you being considerate and they playing in your face the whole time and you really being genuine, man, listen. That shit hurt. That ain't no nice, man. That ain't no good feeling. That's not no good feeling. But you got to understand that you allowed yourself. You got to take accountability for that. Everything that happened in my life to this point has been my fault because I allowed myself to show up in them places and I allowed what happened to me. I came into agreement with it, even if I didn't address it. I came into agreement with it silently. But God looked at me and still said, I'm good, though. God still woke me up and said, hey, here's your 2 handsome sons. Raise them to be kings. That's crazy. Man, listen. But, yes, like they said, no, it's unhealthy, right? Right, it's unhealthy, yes. It is very unhealthy. That's all life really is, highs and lows. Right, Caps? It's highs and lows. But you have to understand that if you're going to have somebody by your side through the highs and lows, through the isolations and whatever going on in your life, you got to make sure you're going to have somebody there that's going to love you unconditionally. Even when the conditions aren't stable, you still have to have somebody there to love you 100%. 100%. Because you think about it, you're not going to know what love is until you experience what love isn't, right? You're not going to know what consideration is until you've not been reciprocated consideration that you've given out time and time and time and time again, right? The when is enough is enough. Like my daddy used to say, you a glutton for punishment. You a glutton for punishment, big dog. How many times you gonna run your head into that wall before you learn? Love yourself. Love yourself. That is the number one sin to me in my book that I feel is self-betrayal, not loving yourself. That's like the worst of anything because God breathes the breath in us and we're made in his image. And he said that we should have a more peaceful and loving and abundant life. And you're not lining up to fix yourself to line up with your purpose. Man, that's self-abandonment. That's like a slap in God's face. And we've all... A lot of us have done that. A lot of us have not been where we need to be. And our mindset hasn't been fine-tuned the way it needs to be fine-tuned. That's self-betrayal. Would you say consideration is love slowed down enough to notice? Yes. Consideration is love slowed down enough to notice. That's a good one right there, Muse. That's a good one. Right. Even when y'all pray together, still feel though. Still feel enough. Yes. Yes. Even when you're entering a space and you understand that you're going to date somebody to be with somebody for the rest of your life, healthy relationships, whether it's friends, significant, or whatever it is, healthy relationships are going to expose you. They are. And it's up to you to own that. Be like, yeah, that's me. 95, baby. 12:30 p.m. Yeah, I got a t-shirt with my name on it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta own it. You gotta own it. And you can't hide. You just gotta be like, what they really want from a hood. That's what they really want. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gotta really be there. You just have to own it. You have to look at, I can't blame nobody for where I failed in my life because I made the decision. I can't blame nobody. I cannot. And we all have to look at ourselves in the mirror and do that. Now understand that we are the reason for the things that we went through in our life. We are. It was a long time for me to swallow that pill, big dog. But hey, thank God for Coca-Cola. Hey, because I washed that pill down, baby. I had to swallow that one. That's when you really have to think about it. No matter the situation was bad, no matter how you got did. It's still your fault because you allowed them to do it. You was in the situation with them. You allowed them in your battlefield to get that close to you to play with you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow. I hope y'all got some water by y'all phones right now. I hope you do. I pray to God you do. But yeah, consideration is, like you said, it's emotional intelligence. It's emotional protection. Consideration is emotional protection. So I'm going to protect this person's emotions. Spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. The feminine energy, the divine masculine. I'm going to protect my husband feelings. I'm going to protect my wife. I'm going to protect my kids' emotions. I'm going to protect my mom, them emotions. You know how you make adjustments to your life so don't nobody have to worry about the emotional part of the things that you got to go through, the things that you got to do? That's consideration. Yes. You moving around to be protected, the loved ones that you're close to emotionally. That's consideration. It's emotional protection. Do we consider it tells the nervous system, I am safe here? Yes. The whole point of consideration is to create a safe space. And the only way you can create a safe space, you have to be aligned with God. I know y'all probably get tired of me saying that, but I ain't gonna never stop saying that. Never. You gotta get aligned with God. Seek ye the kingdom of God. You have to be able to look at yourself in order to be aligned with God, in order to receive a type of love that's a consideration, the highest form of love, and give the highest form of love. If you ain't put in the work, you're not going to be able to do that. It probably sounding crazy to a lot of folks right now. Because you got to go through something to get to something. Life ain't going to be easy. That's why it's so important for us to have discernment and allowing people in our life. We can't breathe without God. We can't exist without God. But why do we feel like we can think without God? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. And we do that. We do. We're the only creation that don't serve God like just, hey, we are. We don't never do what God tell us to do. Never. Never be wondering why, god dang on, I was driving down the street and I got hit by a helicopter. What? See what I'm saying? God gonna get you. Hey, you gotta, walk light. Better walk light. When you see outlandish stuff happen, people, that's a statement. That's a warning. Y'all see them monks walking across the United States? Hey, they marching for peace because this place is evil. Man, listen, y'all better pay attention. Y'all better pay attention. I promise. Y'all pay attention. But this is the hard question. And it goes back to what Meech said on TikTok Live. Are people inconsiderate because they lack awareness or because they lack care? Or are people inconsiderate because they lack awareness or they lack care? Like we were just talking about, can it be learned or is it a characteristic trait? It's a choice. Two things can be right at the same time. Two things can be wrong at the same time. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's all in the person. Even if they lack awareness, you can learn anything. You have to be willing to learn. If they don't care, then they're not going to learn it. But it's okay, though. That means that they're not on the frequency you need them to be on, and so you must move on. And that's okay. Everybody ain't meant for you to go with you to the next level. Everybody's not meant for you to make it to the top with you. People in your life for long seasons and short seasons, lessons and blessings. But you have to understand and you have to know that there is no hard feelings about it. People's lives change. People's seasons change. That's where it goes. So you have to move in a way that's protecting yourself at all times. Be true to yourself no matter what. Understand, all good things come to an end. Nothing lasts forever. But enjoy it in the moment. Live in the moment where you are. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about what's going on tomorrow. Just live in the moment. Because if you live in the moment, you can speak what you want. You can speak what you want to see in the rest of your life. Just have awareness and self-conscious and self-love and care about what you say, how you walk, how you carry yourself, how you present your energy. That affects you more than really speaking what you want in your life, whether we know it or not. But yes, it's very important. Very important. Because I know how many times we've been inconsiderate without even realizing it. Even if it's a person we don't like, even if it's a person that, man, you just don't want to be bothered. Like, we all have been inconsiderate without really realizing it. We all have been like that before. And that's okay. As long as you can be acknowledged about that and you can be aware of that and change it, then that's fine. But you have to be able to take account in everything you do. Like I said, move with intention and awareness. When you can move with intention and awareness and maintain yourself and be the person that God made you to be. That's consideration. Be your self-love. Be you. Don't be nobody else but you. No more self-betrayal. No more shrinking. If they don't like you, oh well. We're too old to be worried about liking somebody. Is your bills paid? That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on ourselves. If God give us a plate of food, how can we eat our food and worry about somebody else's plate of food? That's how our plate get cool. It's very important. I think we've all experienced times where we've tolerated inconsideration, but you were too afraid to speak up. I think we've all have experienced that type of inconsideration where we were afraid to speak up because you wanted to spare their feelings, because you didn't want to argue, because you want to play along and get along. We've all done that. We all have. That's self-betrayal. That's not being considerate. That's being inconsiderate to your soul. And I'm sorry, y'all. I really believe that within the heart, the core of my soul, that the worst thing you can ever do in this life is not be yourself, not be who God made you to be. Forget all the religious constructs of what they consider sin. Forget all of that. What God said. What did God tell you? What did He write in His manuscript? What did He write? What did He tell you? Going against anything He said is self-betrayal. Especially when it comes to loving you. When it comes to loving you, and you going against everything God said about you, that's self-betrayal. That's the worst sin ever. Because you just refusing to accept what God said about you. That's why I said, we need Him to exist. We need Him to eat, drive, and do everything else. But why do we feel like we don't need Him to think? I don't understand that. And I myself has been guilty of that. That's why I say everything to this point in my life has been AI. Like, man, listen, sometimes you gotta sit in a quiet corner and get your life right. Hey, you gotta get your mind right, baby. You gotta remember who God said that you were. You're not becoming, you're remembering. God already put everything you need to be in you to make it wherever you want to go. You just gotta tap in to find out what He wants you to do. That's when you tap into your purpose. But we got to understand this too. A lot of times people play with consideration because they feel like consideration is weakness. They feel like when you consider it, you're weak. When you kind and loving, you're weak. That's why they try to play in our face. If you're a genuine, loving-hearted person, you're a big-hearted person, you'll do anything for anybody. You give them a shirt off your back. People try to play in your face because they feel like you're weak because you consider it and you love. When people don't realize love and consideration is the strongest power in this world. The strongest power everywhere is love. Love conquers all. Love covers a multitude of things. But really, consideration is a weakness. Consideration is discipline. Consideration is discipline. And the thing about it is when you're in the act of being disciplined and you're showing consideration, it really reveals your character. If you can't be considerate, it's either you have the characteristic or you don't. Like me said, in order to show consideration, in order to be in that realm, to experience that frequency of consideration, you got to be disciplined. And if you can't be in that frequency, then you lack discipline. And it reveals your character. Your character isn't up to par. That's why I said you have to go through the silent times by yourself to face yourself and do your shadow work. That's character building exercises. If you can't show up to the space of love and consideration, that means you didn't meet the requirements. You didn't. You didn't fail at love. You failed at reaching love. Like I said, love is peaceful. Love is kind. Love is consideration. Love is not toxic. Love is not toxic. The true love and consideration is going to help you thrive. It's going to help you grow. It's like watering a seed in a garden. It's going to start planting roots in your soul. Because if you can be considerate, man, listen, you know something. That's the highest form of love in all existence is consideration. finna close. And I had this last thought I want to share with y'all. If someone values you and you value somebody, you won't beg for consideration. If you value somebody, you won't have to beg for consideration. You won't. If somebody values you, you won't have to beg for consideration. But at the same time, you have to practice what you preach and practice what you expect. I'm going to say it one more time for y'all. If you value somebody and someone values you, you won't have to beg for consideration. They're going to give it freely. But even though you're receiving it from that person, just also understand that you have to practice and maintain that consideration. Like I said, love is a choice. Love is a decision. Love is not unicorns and rainbows. Love is discipline. Love is respect. Love is accountability. The hard things that we have to work in within ourselves, that we don't want to address. The thing, oh, that's old. I ain't doing all that. You have to face yourself. That's what real love is. And if you can't go down the line and check a box for all of them and say, hey, I've done the work, and I can actually say I qualify for every last one of these words. I worked on every last one of these perspectives of love within myself to be a better version of myself. Then, like I said, you haven't failed at love. You just failed at reaching the requirements of love. And you still in survival love. Y'all take time to think about that. Let that marinate. If someone values you and you value them, consideration is going to be automatic. Consideration is going to be automatic. And that consideration is going to be such a peace and a blessing to you. You're going to want to reciprocate. You're going to want to make sure you expect to walk how they walk for you. You're going to want to show up for them because you've never had anybody show up for you like that. When you really extend love and you really receive love, you're going to want to extend that. It's going to make you want to do more. You know what I'm saying? It's not a force. It's not manipulation. It's flow. It's synchronicity. It's Christ conscious on that type of frequency. And I appreciate y'all tapping in to episode 47 of Juice WRLD Podcast. That was my episode about consideration. If you missed any content, hey man, y'all tap in on all social media platforms. I'm everywhere. Y'all already know. Check me out. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the support. Year 2, episode 47. We not stopping. We're going to keep on going. Newer elevation, newer conversations, deeper looks at life. We breaking everything down to the quantum level. We breaking everything down. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. This has been a transparent and a vulnerable walk that I'm on, but I'm speaking life into others to bless them where they know, hey, it's okay that you feel like this. It's kind of one of the moments like when Kanye came out, when he first came out, y'all, and he said, we all subconscious. I'm just the first to admit it. We all have these thoughts about these conversations. I'm just the first to be able to get on the TV and tell y'all about it. Because it's very important. Uncomfortable conversations rule the nation. We're not going to sweep nothing under the rug. We're addressing everything. We taking accountability, man. It's time. It's time. It's time for us all to just focus on ourselves and take accountability and be a better version of ourselves. It's time. I'm not blaming my parents or nothing I've done that I've been through in my life to be hurt. I'm not blaming nobody. I'm taking accountability for you. And I want all y'all who are in my community who want to take a walk with me to take accountability for yourself also. No matter what it look like, no matter what your journey look like, I can't judge you. But I love y'all though. Y'all can't do nothing about it. Like my mentor said, y'all can't do nothing about it. I appreciate y'all though. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support though. Like I said, y'all tap in. Look for more content coming soon. I appreciate y'all love. I'm out. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good night. Have a great day at school and at work tomorrow, y'all. Godspeed. Peace.